I used to really like a couple of Jamiroquai records when I was a young man, and
Mm.
I had a hat that I acquired in a costume box that was kind of a big furry hat
Mm.
that I just had, in my repertoire. And there's a very, very early probably can't find it. It was pre YouTube, pre really video online in any capacity, really. Video of us being interviewed in Vancouver, and I'm wearing the Jamiroquai hat in it.
Hello and welcome to How to Do Everything. I am your host, Tommy Dasilo, and I am attempting to learn how to do everything by chatting with special guests about what they've always known how to do, what they've learned how to do, and what they feel the stupidest about. Today on the show, from the legendary Death from Above 1979, drummer and vocalist Sebastian Grainger is going to teach me how to make the perfect birthday cake for a child's birthday party, among many, many other things. If you know anything about me and my musical tastes, you know what a thrill this is for me to have half of this band on the show. One of my favourite bands. They are about to be in Australia celebrating the 21st anniversary of their amazing album, You're a Woman, I'm a Machine. They are going to be in Brisbane on April the 22nd, and Adelaide, April the 23rd, Melbourne, April the 25th, and Sydney, April the 26th. If you are not familiar with this band, pause this episode right now. Go and listen to You're a Woman, I'm a Machine. Check out their performance on the Conan O'Brien Late Show from back in the day. Watch their KEXP session from recently. They are one of the greats. Let's stop dilly-dallying around. I was so excited and honestly, completely nervous, which I'm sure you'll be able to tell as you listen to this. But here we go. Enjoy this episode. Sebastian Grainger from Death from Above, 1979. It's exciting. You guys are about to come down to Australia for the You're a Woman, I'm a Machine 20th anniversary tour. First time you've been to Australia since 2011. And on that tour, you were playing at a day rave called Park Life. You were on in the middle of the afternoon.
That was a fun tour, though. You fly around from city to city, kind
Mm,
of in a sort of festival express style
yeah.
plane that's just like all the artists. There were four Sebastians on that flight. There was myself. There was a Sebastian from a band called Little Dragon.
Mm-hmm.
There was Sebastian the DJ with Sebastian with the
Yep.
A, and then
Yep.
there was Sebastian Tellier. We were all on that flight
Yeah,
together.
sure.
So if that flight went down, that's a lot of dead Sebastians.
Yeah, that's like 1% of the global Sebastians
It's a lot.
taken
Yeah.
out. Yeah,
It
they
would
should have
it would
split you all up, Air Force One style. How are you feeling like doing these anniversary shows, doing the 20th anniversary of the You're a Woman, I'm a Machine album? How does it feel like looking out into the crowd? Like what kind of crowd response are you getting now as opposed to like back in the day? Are you noticing, because it is like right in that wheelhouse of like I'm 37 and
Mhm.
I'm pumped for it. I was there like early on with that album. How's
Yeah.
the how do you find the crowd response these days?
There's something happening now which is interesting, because we've been playing the whole time. I mean, we stopped playing between whatever 2005 and 2011, but now it's been 14 years or whatever
Mm-hmm.
of rocking, which this is the longest period of the band is now.
Mm.
Um, but there's like a kind of new energy now, which feels almost like the old energy in a way,
Mm-hmm.
which wasn't always the case. It's not like we came back and after 5 years of being away, and that energy was there. It was a little bit, but there's this like, I don't know. There's kind of like a fresh thing happening. It's interesting.
Yeah, are you
After
noticing
7
it's like a
years.
lot of some younger people who've gotten onto the music sort of in the interim, mixed with, I mean, I'm really looking forward to these shows, but like as I say, I'm really having to do some stretches that day.
Yeah,
Really take
yeah,
care of myself in that crowd. I probably can't can't go as hard as I would have once upon a time.
yeah. There's a comedian named, I don't know if you know Steph Tolev.
Mm.
She's from Toronto actually, but she works out of Los Angeles, and she's a fan of our band. And last time she came to see us, she peed in the mosh pit. So that's our
Okay.
demographic. That's our
Yeah,
demographic.
that's the bar that's been set. Well,
Incontinence. Yeah.
at that Park Life show, I was there with my friend, and we were up the front, and he kept crowd surfing towards the back of the crowd. And every time he would reach the back of the crowd, and then he would come back around and find me, and he did this 4 or 5 times. And every time he came back, he was missing one more item of clothing. So he just
Yep.
like started with just one shoe
Strip
gone.
moshing, it's called.
Yeah, and at a certain point, I had to go, bro. You gotta cut this off. You're running out of layers. You're
Yeah.
gonna be like Robbie Williams at the end of the Rock DJ clip. People are gonna be tearing skin off you at this point. You gotta rest up.
I saw Oasis in like maybe 96, 95, 96, maybe even earlier than that. 94 maybe.
Whoa.
And I they were playing, and I lost my glasses, and I was blind. I couldn't see. And miraculously, moments later, I found my glasses. Put them back. They're all crooked. But I put them back in my face. Would have really been a hard ride home
Yeah, you'd
without
have to
them.
leave that bit out of the story. Like, yeah, I saw Oasis back in the day. I mean, I didn't
I
see them. I
kind of
kind of
saw, yeah, kind
Yeah,
of
I was in
saw
the
them.
room. I saw some like amorphous blobs in front of me. I'm pretty sure it was the Gallagher brothers.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't tell
All
for
I could see was
certain.
eyebrows, just like two eyebrows. It was definitely them.
Yeah, it was this grey fog and it called me a cunt, so I'm pretty sure it was a Gallagher.
There was a lot of that, actually. Yeah.
But yeah, how do you feel like, playing these songs now on this anniversary tour? And I mean, I'm such a big fan of the documentary about you guys. It's called
Hmm.
Life After Death from Above 1979. And like in that documentary, it paints such a kind of chaotic kind of picture of that time. Is it kind of weird transporting yourself sort of back into that time and revisiting this album in this way, or are you able to kind of come at it with fresh eyes, sort of detached from that period?
Yeah. I mean, we're coming at it with fresh eyes. I don't feel the same as I did then.
Mm.
I felt trapped and alone, I guess there's the imposter syndrome. I feel weird, sort of diagnosing anything or using any sort of like labels like that. But I did have the sense in that period that I wasn't ready for what was happening. Like
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in a not in a like the situation was overwhelming, but I felt like I wasn't good enough. Like I wasn't a good enough drummer or singer, and I wasn't doing what I wanted with my voice. I wasn't doing what I wanted with my body. And so when the attention came, which was, I mean, we're looking for it. It's not like it's not like we didn't want people to like our band. But when it came, the way it came, I felt overexposed all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it took me a long time to not feel that way. Basically, just feeling like what I'm doing has an inherent value, or trusting the audience in a way, going like, oh, they see something in this that maybe I'm not even seeing.
Mm.
There was a show we played many years ago now in Montreal, and a very old, very good friend of mine came to watch with her husband, and she's a dancer, like a modern dancer, and in fact, there's a line about her. I think cheap talk, that she uses her body to say the things that she can't say. It was
Mm-hmm.
about her because she communicated physically, right? And she came to see the show, and I felt terrible about the show. I didn't sing well. I
Right.
missed all my fills. I felt real bad about it. And that wasn't uncommon. I would get down after shows, throw stuff around. If I didn't feel like I performed well, and she'd seen me a bunch of times. They'd seen me a bunch of times, and they came to the after party, and she's like, "Oh, that was great." I was like, "No, it wasn't." She's like, "Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome." I go, "Yeah, it sucked. I couldn't even sing properly. I didn't, I couldn't even sing the chorus in that song." And she's like, I couldn't tell." And then I felt even worse, right? Because I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, what's the point if you can't tell?" And she's like, "Listen, you're not the whole show. It's
Right.
not only you. There's all kinds of things going on, and 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 people come there with an expectation, and they come there with a mood, and they're not coming there to be let down. They're coming there to sort of at the end of a day, of a week, of all they're having an experience, and you're just a part of that experience. You're not the entire experience.
Right.
So that really opened my mind. I went, "Oh, okay, so I'm not like I'm participating in something, but I'm not the whole thing, and not
Mm.
people aren't just observing me under a microscope for 90 minutes. There's other stuff happening."
That's very timely because we're in the middle of the comedy festival here, and I've just done a
Hmm.
show, and it's exactly that. It's like you have friends come along, and you're saying that you were doing this stuff like 20 years ago or so. That was me last week, like having a friend
Hmm.
come to the show and afterwards then be like, "Hey, great show," and me be like, "It kind of sucked tonight. Last night was better," and then being like,
Right, right, right.
"I don't know, man. I had a fun time," and
Yeah,
you're sort
yeah,
of
yeah,
saying
yeah.
the audience sucked, and I was in the audience, so you're
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
leveling that at me. It's like you do
yeah.
have to realize like the transaction is you and the audience, and then it's over, and there's no more correspondence to really be entered into. Just like let them take what they wanted from the show. Like it's
Sure,
over
yeah.
now. It was a moment
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
time, but it is so hard to not feel like you have to be like, no, just if you had any thoughts about it that were a bit negative, don't worry, I beat you to it. I was also thinking it too.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You don't want to seem like you're a sucker or something, or like
right.
you don't know. It's like
Mm.
obviously we all know I didn't sing the high note in Freeze Me. We all know that. Let's not fool ourselves.
Yeah, but that's such an endearing part in the documentary too, because then you guys, you come back and you're playing Coachella on the big stage, and there's lots of scenes of you, like practicing and really, like stressing about all these things that you felt like you didn't get right, kind of back in
Mhm.
the day, and like what is it, where you're fooling around with the sampler, where you want to have those little kind of interludes that are on the album that you were
Mhm.
never able to do back in the day, and just like the idea of getting that like second go around to sort of do
Mhm.
this stuff how you always wanted to do it. Like,
Sure,
are
yeah, yeah.
you still kind of, are you able to be a lot more like just kind of go out there and leave it all out there now and not really beat yourself up over it? Or
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot less mystery to how and why things work, how and
mm,
why I can sing better than other nights. And I'm very aware of my voice and my body now. So, uh, we used to, I don't know, I didn't know how I made any sound with my face. I didn't understand it
mm,
at all back in the day. So it's like, yeah, if it's good, it's good. If it's not, it's not. And like,
right.
I didn't make any correlation between staying up until 5 in the morning, impersonating Arnold Schwarzenegger and drinking tequila. I didn't make the connection between that and not being able to sing properly the next day. I
Right,
didn't make
right.
the connection between staying up, like just joking around in bars until 3 in the morning. I didn't make the connection. And now
Yeah,
it's like my whole life is like I can't talk to you after the show. I have to sing tomorrow.
yeah.
Like
My friend
so.
came to my show the other day and she was like, "Now, you do always lose your voice during the comedy festival, don't you?" And she's known me forever. And I was
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, I mean, when I was 21, because
Hmm.
exactly what you're saying, I'd go out every night for a month after the show and write
Yeah,
myself off. But no, not anymore. Like,
yeah, yeah,
that would
yeah,
be
yeah,
embarrassing if I was still putting myself through those paces and
yeah,
to the
yeah, yeah,
detriment of my job."
yeah, yeah. We do 4 shows in a row, pretty much max 3, hopefully,
Mm,
and then 4 nights in a row. And then I gotta take it easy for a day. It's just I can't. So there's little
yeah.
things like that you were whatever. It's like this is my job, right? It's like This is the thing. It's
Mm.
my life's work, and so I take it very seriously now in that regard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're also. I mean, what's so interesting about your band? There's just the two of you in it, and you are part of a very. I mean, we're saying a group of Sebastians is a pretty rare group, but you're also a singer slash drummer, which is incredibly rare. And
Hmm.
interestingly, you guys haven't been to Australia for 14 years. I mean, one of our great bands. I don't know if you know the band Spiderbait, but they're also in that pantheon of singer slash drummer.
I don't play with any other bands that have drummer singers, especially if they're better looking than me, and especially if they sing better than me. I don't do it.
Right,
I
right,
refuse. There was
yeah.
I had that joke in jest for many that rule in jest for many years, and we pulled up one day to play with a band in New York called Priestess,
Hmm.
and they're like a like a four piece metal band, and I look at the drummer. I'm like, he looked like Johnny Depp. I was like, this guy's too good looking. We can't go on after these guys. It's insane. And
Mm.
then he sang a tune, and he sang way better than I sing. I thought, these guys out of here.
Yeah, yeah,
Now he's one of my dearest friends, of course.
right. So
Yeah,
you can play on a bill with a band that has a singing drummer as long as they either look like dog shit or they sing like dog shit. They can't
that's
be a hot
exactly
guy
right.
with great range. Yeah.
Can't be that. Yeah.
Now I have to quickly go back to the tour that you did in 2011, the Park Life tour, because this show is all about things that you're an expert in, and this is something that I kind of learnt that maybe you have a bit of expertise in on that tour, because while you were out here, you were. This is like it's a real different time. You're on Twitter, back when Twitter was like a very active
Oh yes.
platform,
Uh-huh.
and you got on there, and I think you guys had just gotten to the country, and you said, "Does anyone have any recommendations for good pizza in this country?" And I replied with the name of a pizza place that I was quite fond of at the time,
Hmm.
and you then. I believe you went, and then the next day you got back on Twitter and you replied to me and just kind of like very publicly admonished me for sending you to a pizza place that you thought was quite shit.
That sounds like me in 2011. Yep.
And I really, I mean, I was pretty at the time like, oh my God, this is like so embarrassing. This band I love. And hey, followed up on my recommendation, and he hated it. And now
I was
he's caning me in a
way ahead of the
public forum.
curve. Yeah, way ahead of the curve in
He's-
that regard.
I was just in the Colosseum getting beheaded.
Yeah.
But over time I've really come to respect it, because the pizza place that I sent you to was for anyone listening who's in Australia, it was a place called Crust. And so I've told people that story since, and they're like, that is so embarrassing that you sent him to like a chain. But we hadn't, in this country, we hadn't really gotten around the like artisanal pizza yet. We were a bit late to the party with that.
I find it so strange that I asked for a pizza recommendation. I can't imagine myself doing like rolling up into a foreign country and be like, "Where's the good pizza
Where's the best pizza? Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what your diet is like these days, but I would love to make amends for my behaviour back then, and organise some actually good pizza for you while you're in Melbourne, because we've really come a long way in those 14 years.
I don't engage with social media anymore. Those days are done for me
Mm.
for a long time now. I do. I run the Death from Above Instagram, but
Yep.
I generally don't ask for. There's not a lot of interaction, anyhow. There's we've come a long way. You can easily find peer reviewed restaurants
Yeah.
quite easily now. That wasn't the case before. You couldn't
Yeah.
Yelp or whatever, Open
Yeah.
Table or whatever the things were.
You don't have to take your recommendations from some little shithead on Twitter.
Well, I learned my lesson, okay? So
Yeah.
that began and ended.
I'm the guy that made you give up social media. It wasn't the elections. It wasn't Elon Musk. It was like, man, it's just not worth it. You get on here, you get sent to the worst pizza of your life.
You
I'm
know
out.
what? You know what did it? I don't even know what did it actually, but there was a point where I just stopped posting anything anything personal. Well, I mean, there's a little bit on like the Instagram stories occasionally, but any opinions, any current events, anything,
Mm.
just stopped. Like consciously was like, okay, no more of that, just as a test.
Yep.
And what I realized was when things happen in the news or in the world or something's happening, I don't immediately have to feel anything about it. I can just kind of
Mm.
let it happen and go like, oh, and process it properly, properly. And without the instinct to respond or to put in my 2 cents, it's a huge relief. Anytime anything crazy happens,
Mm.
I thank God. I'm so relieved that I don't have to do anything about it. Like I don't have to say anything about it
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
oftentimes, I mean, people are constantly putting their foot in their mouths, right? In that
Mm.
regard. Or there's a pressure to say something or whatever it is. And I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't do anything. Like saying what you think about something
Mm. But
doesn't do anything.
there's also just this weird level now of like every time I get on Instagram and I see like a little preview of what's happening on Threads, it's always someone who's just doing a very deliberate engagement baiting thing where they're
Of
like,
course, yeah.
I finally watched Godfather 2 the other night and I have to say, I think it sucks. And you just read it and go, you don't think that. Like, you don't think that at all. You've just
Yeah.
picked you've just picked a golden, a golden
Yeah, yeah,
beloved thing to just get people to respond to
yeah.
get the views up on your page and so it's not only just like people putting their foot in their mouths, but it's just also opinions where you're like, I don't think this person even necessarily thinks that. They're just saying the wrong thing to.
Well, that's the way you get people to pay attention, right? It's like the
Mm.
I forget the guy from The Darkness, Justin Hawkins, has
Yeah.
a podcast, and the thumbnail is always like, so he hates something, like this thing stinks, and then you watch it and he's like,
Yeah.
he likes pretty much everything, and he finds good in everything, but
Yeah.
it's always like Justin destroys the new whatever single, and that's not what happened at all. He went, wow, this is a cool melody. Wow, what a good singer.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
check out that drum fill.
I fell for that the other day. I was watching a YouTube video about this video game that's coming out. The thumbnail was like, I think this is going to be really bad. And I was like, all
Hmm.
right, well, I'm interested. This just seems insane. Let's see what he has to say. And then it's like this 20-minute video where by the end, he's just basically like, anyway, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty good. It's like, you're not even doing what you say in the thumbnail. I was like so annoyed at myself for falling for it. I'm like, God, I should have known. And I'm looking, the video's got like 1 million views. I'm like, ah, man, I'm just one of the patsies. I feel so bad for contributing to this insane culture that we're in.
It was fun. It was fun back in the day, like negging and hot takes and everything. But I kind of there was this. This is going to be a strange story, but there's this award in Canada called the Polaris Prize. It's kind of like a music award, like the Mercury Prize in the UK a little bit. And one year, I was for a long time owned a studio with a guy named Jimmy Shaw, plays in a band called Metric, a very great Canadian band, and they were being honored at the Polaris Prize, and Lou Reed was supposed to do their introduction. He was friends with the band at the time, and had sang on one of the records. Crazy. The singer Emily lived in New York and got to know him, and he was supposed to introduce them, and he got sick, and so they asked me. I don't know, it's strange, and so I wrote this kind of like cynical speech that was like with kind of vulgar, with like hot takes and, kind of saying these like, outrageous things and, shock whatever, edge lord stuff. And I got there and that's what the MCs were doing. I was like, oh, that's just what the mainstream humor is now. And
Right.
then when I went up, it kind of fell flat because we just watched 40 minutes of these two people that had probably comedians write their stuff, and it
Right.
was all that, and then I went up and like said a bunch of disparaging things about myself and Lou Reed, and then he died.
Ye- What? How long after your
Mm,
speech?
like the next week.
Really?
So I was like, well, first of all, it's not that funny. Everyone's doing
Yeah.
it. And it really came to sting me,
Yeah.
karmically,
Yeah. On
the
my
astral
roast
plane.
killed Lou Reed. Damn.
Yeah, he didn't watch it. Let's be clear. Yeah,
You never know. You
that's
never
not what he
know.
was doing at this final week on Earth, watching his pinch hitter co-MC, co-introduce at the Polaris Prize in Canada. That didn't happen.
Something I've always been curious about. I got into the band. I think just I don't think you were playing, like maybe just before you announced the split and everything. And I remember looking on your Wikipedia, and this was a real like turning point for me in the idea that like most stuff that's on Wikipedia is made up. But I
Mhm.
remember being so fascinated by this. There was a period where there was something on there that was saying that your next album, so this is like 2000 and I don't know, 6 or something, that your next album was going to come out in 3 versions, a version with just you guys, a version with a full band, and then a full Mastercraft remix version. And thinking, oh, that sounds sick. And then like I don't know, a week or two later, you announced that you'd split, and it was like really the first time in my life of being like, wow, I guess you just can't believe everything you read on Wikipedia. I guess just
Yeah,
someone thought, hey, that would be cool if that happened, and just put it on there as like a lark.
I don't know. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, there was kind of a there was kind of a purgatory period. Like we basically broke up, and then but we still had to tour. We toured with Queens of the Stone Age and Nine Inch Nails. That was after we'd broken up, so we had some stuff to finish before we could
Right.
actually go on our merry way. And there was, I think we started flirting with the idea of doing something else, and then it just, it was clear after we did that tour. It's like, no, there's nothing left
Mm.
for us. Um, and I wanted to do. I was like very much feeling like I wanted to like a real band or something. I wanted something, I don't know what I wanted. I wanted something
Mm.
different. And so we might have even talked about that, and like someone might have interviewed us, and we talked about that,
Yeah, interesting.
doing like a three, like just the same songs, just like with three separate treatments of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So that doesn't, it was kind of rooted in partial truth.
Yeah, interesting. Because I just remember thinking, like, wow, that conceptually, like, that's such a sick, crazy idea. But yeah, then having my hopes just dashed, and like, I truly have spent all this time thinking, I guess someone just full on made that up.
I
And
think it was partially true. I
yeah,
don't know why.
sure.
I don't know who put it up on Wikipedia. It wasn't me.
Yeah, have you done any editing of the Wikipedia page at any
You know,
point?
I tried many years ago to edit my own page, and I was just like, I'm going to put like crazy facts about myself that no one knows, like how and when and where I lost my virginity, and like very specific, like, like a meal I ate when I was 17 or like 15 years old, my family, and like just
Mm-hmm.
very specific, like here's a paragraph of very specific things about Sebastian Granger, and I
Yep.
submitted it, and then it was right away just taken down. I was like, this is like primary source stuff here where
You just go to like open up the personal life tab and it just crashes the computer because there's like just literally every meal you've ever had, it like
yeah,
in
yeah,
depth
yeah.
detail about every relationship you've ever been in.
I tried. It didn't take.
You're almost like the anti Wikipedia band because your sort of story early on was that you had all these like different running things about like how you had met like in prison and on a pirate ship and all that stuff. So you were almost like,
The trifecta though was prison, pirate ship, and gay bar, but no one says the gay bar thing anymore for some reason.
yeah.
Those were the three that we used to say.
And
It's
then
just
the
like, why is gay bar funny? Why is that even
Yeah,
funny?
yeah. The
I did
like.
meet Rufus Wainwright in a gay bar. Well, not in a
Oh,
gay,
really?
outside a gay bar. That's not unusual, though. I mean, right?
Hey, when you think about it, most of the world is outside a gay bar, right?
The entire world is outside a gay bar or a falafel place.
Yeah, yeah. You guys were so you were scheduled to the band actually the actual story is that the band was kind of born out of September 11, right? You were meant to be driving down to do a show, and then
Hmm.
the attacks happened. And what I love thinking about that is that
But that's not how we met.
the
We'd already met before then.
oh yeah, the gay bar had been ages before that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was called the Pirate Ship, by the way.
yeah. And you went to prison as a result of
No, the back room was called the prison.
right, right. Um, the two ends, the two like ends of the spectrum of my music tastes, very much linked by September 11. You guys with that story, and then one of my other favorite bands, Jamiroquai. Um, JK was meant to be in one of the towers on that day. They were meant to be doing a press thing there.
I used to really like a couple of Jamiroquai records when I was a young man, and
Mm,
I had a hat that I acquired in a costume box that was kind of a big furry hat
mm,
that I just had, in my repertoire. And there's a very, very early probably can't find it. It was pre-YouTube, pre really video online in any capacity, really. Video of us being interviewed in Vancouver, and I'm wearing the Jamiroquai hat in it. Early DFA days.
yeah.
We were in Mexico City recently, and we played a show. Went to a bar after the show, and sitting there with our the crew guys we work with, and Jamiroquai's song came. I haven't listened to it in ages, and it sounded incredible. Like those
Mm,
records are so well recorded, and the
yeah.
playing is insane.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and obviously
He like
he's a very good singer.
they went through a period where I think they were, very much off the radar and a bit, considered quite naff. And
Hmm.
like I was, big into them when I was younger and, just have always, yeah, have just remained a fan. And I've really been for a long time saying they're really gonna have a comeback. And it feels like it's really starting to happen. Like the amount of times I'm out and about just in a bar or a shop in the last like 5 years, the rate at which you are hearing Jamiroquai has just ballooned by about 1,000%. It feels like there's
I
something.
think people want to hear real music. I think they
Mm,
do. I mean, I know that I have a lot of trouble ingesting a lot of modern production. Just
mm,
the amount of synthesis that's happening is it's hard to listen to.
mm.
Yeah, there's something about it, and there's like an openness to those records. It's not over compressed, or it's just that they just sound like very good.
Yeah,
Whoever produced, I don't know who produced or recorded those records, but they're they're very good.
yeah. You gotta dig that hat up. You gotta bring back the. You gotta ride the wave. You gotta
I
ride
don't
the
know.
Jamiroquai wave.
I've been married for almost 20 years, and I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk it.
Drumming and singing with a big like furry like thing on your head. That sounds pretty dangerous, all things considered.
It might at 46 years old on Friday.
Mm,
That might be the end of me if I wear a
yeah,
big hat and I just
yeah.
keep all the heat near my brain. It it's stroke recipe. We're talking about a stroke, is what we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So I was asking you like things that yeah. Thank you for filling out the little survey that I send out to all the guests.
Homework, a
Homework, I
podcast with
know,
homework.
I know. People hate it. I was touched that you did it. I truly did think it would be a thing where we'd get on here and you would have not done it. And hey, much like being caned for the pizza shop, I would have had to respect it.
Yeah, you gotta respect it. I almost didn't do it. It was close.
Yeah, no,
I
but
was
thank you.
looking. I was like, I don't fucking know. And then I just started saying the questions out loud to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, this, that." I was like, "Oh yeah, okay." And she was
Oh,
like,
that's good.
keep asking me.
Yeah, you mentioned that a big glaring thing that you don't have any skill or expertise or knowledge in is lyrics. And so by that, do you mean your own lyrics, or do you mean like? Because I was thinking about, it's pretty common that you know, not very common, but you will see bands that have the little, you know, the singer's got the little teleprompter thing in front of them. And I was trying to imagine a way in which you behind the drum kit could ever have that set up for yourself. You would need a massive screen off to the side of the stage in like portrait mode.
Doing Your Woman, I'm a Machine. There's two songs on that record that I have a lot of trouble remembering the lyrics for. One is Blood on Our Hands. Not a lot of lyrics, by the way. It's not like we have songs, new songs with tons of lyrics. For some reason, so I think I screwed it up one time, and now it's almost impossible for me to learn those lyrics. There was this, I forget what podcast it was. There was this show I listened to a long time ago about Elvis performing, I think it was Unchained Melody, maybe. And in
Oh
the
yeah,
middle of it, he had this kind of spoken word thing where he would tell a little tale. And he always messed it up to the point of bursting out into laughter. And it became a
yeah.
nervous impulse. You know what I'm talking about?
I listened to that too. Yeah, what
Yeah.
was it?
I think it was Malcolm Gladwell, maybe.
Yeah,
Malcolm Gladwell's
maybe.
podcast.
Yeah.
This is early podcasting days. This is probably 15, maybe 12 years ago or something. Maybe not that long, 10 years ago. But yeah, he would just, because he had this, he had this lane that was carved, this groove, and he couldn't get out of it. So every
He
time he
could never get
performed
it
it,
right.
he could never get it
Yeah.
right. He would just always burst
Yeah.
out into laughter. And it's similar. It's like, I think I messed it up at Coachella or something, and I just like, I couldn't, now it's just, it's trauma based memory loss. You know, I just can't do it. It's getting better actually on this. I've played it like, 40 times in the last year, so I should remember it now.
But then you get into the psychology of like, as you're getting up to those bits, you're like, now here's the bit that I always fuck up.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
fuck
yeah.
it up this time. And then it's like, you
So
just
what I
psych
do is
yourself
I
out.
was getting, and the same thing with Sexy Results, because the lyrics are just so silly, and I had no pride in them, and it was difficult for me to remember them. I think just I was like, my subconscious was like, just don't remember these lyrics because they're not worth remembering. But so what I would do is I would get the sound guy or tour manager to print out the lyrics, and then before the song, I just slap it on my rack tom, and then I can just kind of look over at it while I'm singing. So it's kind of a rudimentary teleprompter.
Yeah.
But then if they're not there, then I'm like, I don't have my training wheels. I'm gonna fall off. Not that it
You're just
matters.
trying to play the drums a little bit louder to mask the fact that you're not singing the right words or any words at all. You're just making
Yeah,
noises.
yeah. No, but it's mostly other people's lyrics. I generally remember my own lyrics.
Right.
It's I will never get a song right. It's very rare. Like if I'm just singing, if something, just a melody pops in my head, I just start singing some, very popular song, I will invariably mess up the operative words, and yeah.
Oh, there's a moment in the documentary that I love where you guys are waiting to go on stage at Coachella, and it's your first like big show back. You played a couple little warm up ones, but like massive show, and the build up in the documentary paints the picture of all this pressure and you guys kind of like reconnecting after all this time. And there's like a moment that I love where you're waiting to go on and your tech accidentally cues up a part of your intro or something that's meant to be this big reveal and big surprise, and you're like, no, stop playing that, don't hit that until later. And then you're like, there's this relief on your face, like, we've averted that crisis. And then like 2 seconds go by, and then he starts playing it again, and like that to me was like just like this such a relatable moment of just like, you just want it to go perfectly. Nothing can go perfectly, but like also this moment of like, it's such a nice moment. You guys are like, you're back together and you're like united by this like chaos of and like borderline incompetence of the rest of the world around
Oh,
you.
good God. We didn't have a monitor engineer on that song, on that
Right.
set. So we were having a lot of trouble hearing. We didn't no one told us, oh, you need to have a person
Mm.
doing your sound on stage. We were just like, it didn't factor in, or I don't know. It's crazy. We didn't have real managers. We had like DJ managers. They didn't know about rock bands. So,
Right, right,
and
right.
the guy, the tech that was on stage, I was just having so much trouble, and I turned around to get some help, to be like, "Can you help me?" Same guy who triggered that sample, which was the intro sample. It's the piano for "Turn It
Yep.
Out," and that was how the show started. And he hit it like in front of the entire audience. Um, I turn around to get some help, and the guy's like holding up his camera, taking a picture of the audience. I thought, "Fucking hell, I need help! Somebody help me!" He was not
Yeah.
he was not employed in our organization for much longer after that. I'll say that.
Well, I was doing a show once where it was a live podcast that we were doing, and we were middle of recording, and I saw our tech just like sprint like away from behind the deck and from the desk, and like come back, 5 minutes later, and then doesn't say anything. And the whole rest of the show, I'm going, is this recording? Is this working? And I go up to him after, and I'm like, hey man, I saw you just leg it out of there. Like, what happened? Was there something wrong with the show or the gear or the recording? And he goes, no, I just really wanted a Coke. It's just sprinting out of there because I was
Yeah.
really parched. I'm like, God damn it, you are fucking kidding me. Like,
I looked over one time, and there was a monitor. It wasn't a guy that was part of our team. It was just a club guy. But I turned around to ask for something in the monitors, and he was eating a Subway sandwich, like a
a
submarine
two-hander.
hoagie.
Yeah.
Two-hander, yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Completely.
chowing
Yeah.
down on, Mazel Tov. He probably worked through dinner and
Yeah, yeah, totally. But so yeah, speaking of food, something that you mentioned was not a kind of answer that I expected to get from a Death from Above 1979 questionnaire. But one of your great skills is you made making a birthday cake for your daughter's birthday that was
yeah.
so impressive that you think the other dads got kind of mad about it.
Uh, I live in a small town, and it's all working people. Everyone has jobs. In a city, there's a lot of people like you and me, comedians, musicians, people, podcasters. Uh, the people out here, the men and women work all day. If the women aren't working, they're stay-at-home moms. It's a pretty traditional environment. So, I don't think there's a lot of dads cooking out here.
Sure.
We live near a power plant. That's kind of the job around here.
Yep.
And I have a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah.
I cook dinner most nights, anyhow.
Yep.
And we've had friends over, and we're just cooking a regular Wednesday night meal, and it just it slays. People's like, wow, this is the best lasagna I've ever eaten. It's much
Hell
better than
yeah.
my mother-in-law's lasagna. And yeah, for my daughter's birthday, I baked a cake, and I just like saw like faces like, you made this? And then
Yeah.
they're kind of looking into the middle distance, kind of like imagining the last thing their husband baked, you know.
Right, right, right. So you've gone in and really shaken up the neighborhood.
I feel like I didn't think it was going to be that way. I thought when I moved here, I would just, they'd be like, oh, there's a rocker here, a rock star. And like, I thought, oh, I'm going to start mowing the lawn with my shirt off. And.
Yep.
But no, it's just a very good sweetie baker.
Yeah, yeah. These macho dads coming to you for cake advice. What kind of cake was it?
It was a strawberry birthday cake with real strawberry in it, and it was quite good. It was quite good. Very
Yeah.
moist.
Okay. I love it. And so you're so you how long have you lived in the in this area, because you talked about having a lot of like, yeah, DIY and carpentry and
Yeah.
like fixing up this old house. I mean, that is like, I'm getting to the point where I'm feeling like, actually, my friend who got me into your band,
Hmm.
he recently moved sort of a couple of hours out of the city and has been talking to me about it for a little bit. And I was like, yeah, that sounds kind of cool. I don't know if I'm like quite ready yet. And then in a weird turn of events, I'm now like renting an office space with him where I'm sitting next to him every day, and I'm getting so country pilled by him. He's just like constantly he's like, yeah, this is what I did last night, and the air's fresh, and we go for a swim, and then we go for a walk. I'm like, man, I'm now just ingesting it all day, and really thinking like, man, that's around the corner for me, I reckon.
Well, here's the catch. You can start to feel like you're retired when you live out in the country,
Right.
you know?
Right.
There's a lot of people out here retired, so uh, there's that sense where, I've got a big yard and big garden, and I have to ride my mower. I've got a riding mower. And last summer I was mowing the lawn, and my neighbor's mowing his lawn. He's 84 years old. He's mowing his lawn. There's a neighbor over here is mowing his lawn. We're all driving on our mowers. And I'm at least 20 years younger than everyone around,
Mm.
at least everyone who was mowing their lawn at that moment. And I thought, wait a second, I could be doing this in 20 years. I don't need to be doing
Yeah.
this particular thing right now.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so you mentioned too that you've got an interest in screenwriting that you're trying to trying to get going. What's the? I think this is so interesting. Like talking to a lot of people who are creative, both on and off this show, about this idea that
mhm.
you're so like, I guess, stuck in your ways when you're younger, and then you get to a point where you're like, you gotta have other strings. You gotta get some other stuff going.
I mean, there was a point in my early 20s when you kind of feel like oh well, this is who I am. I'm this person. I can't do this because I'm this person, and I realized you can kind of do whatever you want to do, like especially
Mm.
in the art life. It doesn't have to be one thing. Um, with screenwriting, it's just kind of a cinephile, just all my life enjoying movies and loving movies. My wife is a filmmaker,
Mm-hmm.
and we've worked on small projects together. Um, I Her and I moved to Los Angeles in 2012, and I just had some ideas, like some story ideas. I was like, how do you write a screenplay? How do you write a story like that? You know, and I bought the Sid Field screenwriting book
Mm-hmm.
and started reading it. And I was like, oh, okay, narrative structure, or the three act structure, and oh, this happens here and this happens here. And at the time we were working on uh, our album, The Physical World, Death from Above. We're working on The Physical World, and I right away translated that knowledge of structural narrative into
Mm-hmm.
songwriting, and wrote, among a few, but "White is Red" is like a story song with like
Oh
a
yeah.
beginning, middle, and an end, and I saw that as a film when I was writing it. I saw it in that structure, so uh, my intention was I'm going to write some screenplays, and then I read the book and then wrote some songs instead. Uh, Also, I made a solo record that year called "Yours to Discover,"
Mm-hmm.
and there's a few songs on that record that are like in that same structure, like like a Springsteen kind of story song,
Mm.
um, and it that's where it kind of left off for a while, and then I would have these like story ideas, just like visions of like movies, characters and situations, and they would kind of develop over time, and I'd kind of like sit and imagine. I could kind of see the thing in my head. This is
Mm.
and then this happens, and then this happens, and like because that happens, and so I started. getting back into the idea of it, but I'm also kind of embarrassed. Like I was kind of embarrassed about it. I remember we were on tour, and I had this big, thick screenwriting book, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to. I just felt like a nerd or something. I didn't want other people to
Right.
see me reading this book, and we were about to go on a ferry, probably I guess between, you know, I guess we were going to Ireland or something. I forget what ferry we were on, but we were on the bus, and the bus driver, we were supposed to leave the bus, and I had this big, thick screenwriting book, and I was like, I got to cover that. I got to wrap it up. I got to cover it. I don't want to sit there
Yeah.
on the ferry reading
Yeah.
the screenwriting book. It's embarrassing. And so I started wrapping it in like, newspaper I had, and the bus driver comes on. He's like, "Oi, quit wrapping presents. Let's go off the bus." I'm not wrapping. Can you? He thought I was like wrapping a gift last minute.
Yeah, I love that. It's like him actually seeing the screenwriting book. I don't think he would have had much to say about that. But
No, but he's like, "You wrapping presents, you,
yeah,
you
the
nerd."
shameful trying to
Yeah,
cover it up.
I got shamed anyway. Yeah, so it's just, it's just kind of been percolating in the background, and I've been threatening to do it for a very long time, and always, when my wife's working on something, I've always
Mm,
enjoyed kind of like getting in there and punching things up and that sort of thing, and then yeah, I just started. There's a couple of ideas that I started kind of writing story points out for, and then I was just started writing
mm.
late last year, and it felt very fun and very easy, and yeah, it's cool. It's just another thing, I like reading screenplays, and I don't. Obviously, uh, there's a path for that sort of thing, but at this point, it's just a hobby and it's fun, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of a dream. Like I haven't had a dream in a long time. Haven't
right.
had a dream in a long time. See the time I've had. Can make a good man go bad. Okay, yeah, I haven't had a dream in a long time. So this is kind of a dream. It's like, okay, even just finishing one is a dream. Here's a screenplay I wrote. Here's a story.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
I th-
format that I understand it because I watch so many movies. uh, a novel I couldn't imagine writing. I just it's so intimidating.
mm,
Even sometimes like thinking about writing an album, like, oh my God, 10 different things that I got to write.
right,
10 of them.
right.
I got to write 10 of them.
Yeah.
Jesus, you know?
35 minutes? Are you fucking
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah.
And then you end up with too much and yeah.
Yeah. But a screenplay, it's like you write 30 pages and that's a third of a movie. You've got the first act, It's like, whoa, there's the first act. That's the
Yeah.
thing. You could
Yeah,
watch that.
yeah.
You could end there.
So once you guys are done with this tour, this like yeah, this wrapping up of I guess is Australia the last leg of the You're a Woman, I'm a Machine
I fucking hope so.
dates?
I hope so,
I've seen you
Tommy.
talk in a couple of interviews that you're not like a the idea of looking back in this way is not something that like super appeals to you, but
Well,
you
it's kind
kind
of
of
like
felt
throwing
like
your own party,
sure, sure.
It's kind of like throwing your own party. So we're not being celebrated. We're celebrating ourselves. Um, it's a bit of a marketing thing. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a way to stay on the road, and
Of
that's
course.
that's our. It also happens to be very fun to play. To play shows in general, but like playing this record's been fun. But it's enough already. It's
Yeah.
been a year. Um, and then the next thing we do is we're playing our second record all the way through the physical world in
Yeah,
Toronto. So
yeah.
we're doing it again. Here we go again. But we're not going to keep doing that unless someone's like, here's a boatload of money to come play it. It's like I'm not going to do this for. Yeah, you got to make new shit. You can't just keep being like, remember this old, remember
Yeah,
this
yeah,
old
yeah.
jam.
So are you? I mean, you may not want to reveal, but yeah, are you guys kind of starting to think about like the next thing beyond this tour, like the some new stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, we don't do cocaine, we don't do drugs, but
Hmm.
we kind of have like cocaine energy in that we're like, yeah, then we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this,
Sure.
and then we don't. You wake up the next morning like, fuck, like I don't want to fucking do that. Um,
Yep.
so no, but we're self managed, and we don't have a record label, so we're like really quite open, but there's also no pressure. No one's like, which is both
Mm.
good and bad. There's no one breathing down our neck saying like, "Where's the record?"
Yeah.
And the idea of writing an LP for a long time. The last one was it was a long time ago now, 2020, whatever. But it this is gonna sound lame, but it was a lot of work. And that
Mm.
sounds like, of course, it's a lot of work. And I don't like saying that usually. Like, no one cares how hard you work on anything. No one cares, actually. Zero people
Sure.
care. They just want good shit. It's just like anything. Like, if a carpenter came in, he's like, man, that was framing that wall. That thing took me 7 hours to frame. It's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Does it
I'm
standing?
exhausted. Yeah.
Put some
Yeah.
fucking drywall on it, you know? No one cares about how hard you work. But because we're on the topic, uh, we sat in a room for 5 weeks and made sounds and sort of rough ideas of songs, and then I took those files and worked on it for a year. That's how long it took
Mm.
to make the last record, and it was from the first microphone cable plugged in I set up the studio. I built everything around. I plugged everything in. I engineered the whole thing. I wrote it. I mixed it, and then and by the end of it, it's like I don't want to do that again. That was too much. And you design the record and you do
Right.
every single fucking thing. The
Yeah.
Facebook ads, it's just like it doesn't. There's obviously some. I love making records. I love producing and microphone. I love the whole thing, right? But it's like no one has a year. Like I don't have a
Right.
year to spend on a record, right? So the idea of being ahead of that was so daunting. Uh, and then you just kind of start writing, and you're like, oh no, it's not. It's not. You don't have to do the whole thing
Kind
in
of
a day.
happens by accident almost.
Yeah, it kind
Yeah.
of happens by accident, and you have
Yeah.
to wait for. If you're in the art life, you kind of have to. You work. You work. You got to make time for it. But some things you also have to wait for a little bit.
Mm. Mm.
I'm not a Nick Cave. I don't keep office hours. Although when I do, it kind of works. So I probably should more. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I kind of have an idea of how I want to do it, and we always threaten to do a quick and dirty record. We've been threatening it for a long time. I think this is the time that we're actually going to do it, though.
This is the one.
This
Yeah.
is the one. Yeah, this is the one.
Well, great. I just have one quick thing that to wrap up here because yeah, I know that you probably don't want to dwell on this period of the band, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask you something in this kind of field because I was rewatching the documentary recently, to be quite honest, because I went through quite a uh, intense and public breakup of a creative partnership. And what I
Okay.
learned when that happened was that is so much more common than you would think. Like, I got so many messages from people where they were like, oh, I've just recently gone through a creative dissolution or a small business kind of breaking up that I started with a friend.
Mhm.
And people kind of never talk about that stuff. People talk about romantic breakups and they talk about friendships drifting apart. But
Mhm.
these kinds of
Mhm.
things, like, they're not very front and center. And when you think about like that period of the band, I do think that there's something about it that it really does sort of now at this point, and you guys having been back together for so much longer than the split even lasted. Like, how do you feel about that period now? Because to me, it feels like there's a little bit of it where it almost does kind of. It really does feed into the lore of the band at this point. Like, are you able to kind of view it that way, or do you like look back on it as like you seem like a guy who's sort of in touch with the idea that things kind of happen for a reason. Like, are you able to view it in that way, or
No, it had to happen. It had to happen, and I'm glad it did because it doesn't have to happen again. I look at bands that have been bands that break up because they've got personal differences. Like, what fucking you got personal differences? Like,
Yeah.
uh, I'm basically, uh, arguing what you just said. Like, people shouldn't talk about it. They should just move on.
Right, right,
They should
right.
just
Right.
get over it.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we got it out of the way. And it needed to happen. There was no way for it to not happen. I think what we're going to regret it and then go back. It's like, why? Because the Arctic Monkeys became popular when we were broken up.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
uh,
Yeah.
like what's the point, right? It's like it is what it is, right? So, and uh, much like the idea of making the three records with one's a Death from Above record and one's a, Seb and a band and the other one's Mastercraft. Well, we had 5 years to do all that stuff. They made
Sure.
two or three LPs. I made an LP and toured and and got that out of my system. I remember before we got Death from Above back together, I'd been touring with my band and kind of in kind of a treadmill feeling, like we were out there for a few years and it felt like we kept doing the same things, like basically opening for my friends' bands and like in the same kind of venues in the same cities and we were on tour and I downloaded the MC5 documentary. I think it's called True Testimonial.
Hmm.
Um, and I was watching the MC5 and I was like, what's the point of playing in a rock and roll band? Like, it's already been done.
Mm.
It's it was perfected the first time around. Like the rock and roll didn't get better after the Stooges. you know,
Right, right, right.
it just kept going. It didn't get any better, and the idea that I could improve it, you know, seemed like a fallacy. And this might be a bit of bad vibes, but I was kind of like, what's the point of this?
Mm.
And then I took that band off the road. We stopped playing. We stopped playing. And I started working on new music, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be funky, whatever. I'm gonna make something different, and it's not gonna be rock and roll. And then I realized that I had a band that was doing something new, and it was Death from
Right.
Above. I already had it, but we weren't active. We weren't playing. We were broken up. We hadn't talked for ages,
Mm.
and uh, and it was that point where I was like, oh, I realized that I didn't take it for granted anymore, and I was like, oh, that was special because I tried to do it again. I was like, oh, you can just fucking start a band, and you'll soon enough you'll be on the late night talk show
Sure.
and which some people do that. It's like I can't. It's like every time Julian Casablancas sneezes, he's on TV. You know,
Right, right.
uh, because whatever they're very very popular, and um, but in my case, I was like, that's a special thing. This band, Death from Above, is a special thing,
Mm.
and uh, it's never existed. I don't know. I can't compare our band to anybody. You can,
Yeah.
but it's like there's not a one to one. It's not like
Yeah,
there's
I've
not
always
another
really
one.
liked when you guys announced that you were coming back. There's a specific line in your post about it that's always really stuck with me where you say what Jesse and I can do together can't be denied. And I've just like that's kind of always been in my head in like the world of creative partnerships where you have your differences and you change as people, but there is something about like when you're in sync with someone and you lock in
Mhm.
and you can't explain it, there's no way you could like necessarily replicate it or come up with the formula for it. There are just sometimes there are these things that not to put, not to sound too wanky about it, but that are bigger than the two people involved and like
Absolutely, it's not
yeah.
wanky. There's we can both Jesse and I are capable of doing all of the stuff that we
Mm.
do. I can play the bass. I can play the synthesizer. I can do all that stuff, and he can do it all as well. He's a great drummer. He's a very good singer, although he
Mm.
doesn't. I wish he sang more. Um, he can write words. He knows how to write words. He can do all that stuff. But it wouldn't. It's just not the same. It's
Yeah.
not the same. And there's something undeniable. I can't even when I pick up his. I can make my bass sound a certain way, but when I pick up his bass on his rig, it's very hard for me to make his sound.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me to do that. And for him, it's normal. It's just normal. And yeah, so there's
Yeah.
something. There's also some weird psychic shit that happens between us, which is, it's like,
That's another really nice moment in the documentary. Near the end, you see these little flashes of you guys working on the second album, The Physical World, and you're in the booth on the drums, and you're playing, and Jesse's on the bass, and I think you're there with the producer or the engineer or whatever, and you're playing a bit on the drums, and Jesse's like, "No, I know what he's getting at," and he picks up the bass and just like has this riff immediately to go along with what you're playing. Like it's that thing of just showing like there just is, for whatever reason, there's just some strange cosmic, psychic link between the two of you guys. It's awesome to see. But yeah, thank you for your time, and looking forward to the shows. And yeah, I'll see you there.
yeah, we'll see you. I mean, I'm gonna age about 7 years on that flight, but so I'm not gonna look as cool. I'll look a little bit. It's
Yeah.
weird getting older. Like I don't know. This camera is smoothing me out or something, but my wife and I had we were talking about some hard decisions we had to make, and I was like, my cortisol level spiked, and I went out and shoveled snow for 4 hours, and I came back inside, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and there was like a thing on my face, like a new.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what? I was trying to rub it off. I was like looking at me. I was like, I fucking aged this afternoon. I just aged from like the stress. Like it was like that immediate. There was like a
Yeah.
thing that's still on my face,
Oh
but it
man,
was like that.
the end of the near the end of the long haul flight where you go into the bathroom and you get a look at yourself in the mirror
Oh, good
just
God.
from the 9 hours of sitting there. You're like,
Yeah.
Jesus
Like, did I get HIV
Christ.
in here? What the fuck is going on?
Is this the plane or the gay bar, the pirate ship? What's going on?
That happened. That happened the first time we went to Australia. I I did that. I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, something happened here.
Sick.
I contracted something on this
Yeah.
flight.
I'm going to get quarantined because I've got some strange virus that they don't have in the country yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, good
Anyhow.
luck for the flight. At least you've got a good number of hours ahead of you to bone up on the lyrics to Blood on Her Hands.
I will
Just
not.
study that sheet.
I refuse. I refuse. It won't. It won't take. It won't take. I'm telling you.
Yeah, you've had 21 years, and if it's not in there now, it never will be.
It's talk to Malcolm McDowell about it or whatever his name is.
Yeah, I'll get Malcolm McDowell on the show and ask him about an episode
Is it
of
McDowell? Is that his name?
Malcolm Gladwell's
Malcolm
podcast.
Gladwell. Yeah.
Malcolm McDowell's the actor. Yeah.
Yeah. Different Malcolm.
All right. And big shout out to my dog for barking in the background there as I asked a question that I was really on the fence about whether it would be cool to bring up or not. But there you go. Sebastian Grainger, Death from Above, 1979. What a thrill. Hope you enjoyed that chat if you're a fan of the band. I loved it. I thought he was, very forthcoming. Had some great stories. Put up with a lot of my dumb jokes and meandering questions and pointless anecdotes. Handled it like a true professional. Really thrilled. And hey, hopefully if you weren't familiar with him and the band, maybe you check them out. Maybe you discover a new favourite. I love them. I think they're awesome. And definitely go and check them out on tour while they're in Australia in the next week because as he says, he's right. There is no one else like them. I've seen them live once before, and it is an incredible experience. You will, you'll never see anything quite like this band. They're great. Thank you to him for giving up his time to do this And get onto Patreon. Patreon.com/howtodoeverything is where I post a little discussion thread every week where you can let me know what you thought of this episode, any takeaways about dissolution of creative partnerships, about how to make a child's birthday cake. Are you that person in your town, in your area, that all the other dads are looking at thinking, you son of a bitch? Are you good at remembering lyrics, or are you might have some comparison in your own job where a key part of it you're constantly forgetting how to do? Anything that this episode brought up for you, chime in, let me know. And we're on Instagram, of course, at How to Do Everything Podcast is where you can interact with me on there as well. Always posting little clips and stuff. Please pass the show on to someone if you enjoyed it and you think that they would like it. And also, please leave a good review on the podcast app of your choice. I used to just say a blanket leave a review, but if you hated this, just don't listen again. I reckon. Only post a review if it's going to be good. That's how the system should work. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time for more How to Do Everything.